G'day, just doing a follow-up video on the 6R80 solenoids. In previous videos I've shown how to test solenoids using pressure. I've got a video I just made recently about how to test the 6R80 solenoids using vacuum. Now I've also mentioned if you're going to flush these out, how to demagnetise it to get as much rubbish out of it as you can. These ones are actually a little bit trickier than your normal solenoids. They've actually got little magnets in there. If you have a look, we've got the nose piece there. Up the end here we've got the filter, and there's a little tiny little ball that sits in there. And what happens, this magnet is actually pulling that check ball in there, into its little spot. I won't touch anything because it's all balanced there, it's going to all roll away. And then we've got the little pintle valve. This runs through here, and what happens, the coil actually shoots that plunger there that pushes that little pintle valve to open a little check ball there. This part here is magnetised as well, strongly magnetised. There's a magnet in there. Got the little return spring. What have we got here? Over here we've got the little plate on the end that is used to calibrate the tension on that spring. Got the canister and the little terminals. They're actually crimped onto the end of the coil wire. Because they're so delicate and fine, they find it easier to sometimes just crimp the connection there. So that's another place where you can run into issues where there's a bad connection there. So if we go back over to the nose piece, focus, but you can see there's a little hole there and a little check ball sits in there. You can see there's a little plastic housing. The pintle, that little tiny pintle valve, runs through there and opens that check ball. The problem is, this magnet here, and it's a very strong magnet, if you have a look, so it can pick up that whole canister no problems. They become contaminated, and no matter what you do, whether you demagnetise the solenoid, whether you blow it out, you can't get that fine metal off of that. You've also got another one over here in the coil winding. You can see it's actually holding that spring in place there. And that magnet's actually quite strong as well. And so it'll pick up that quite easily as well. That's what it looks like completely put back together. So it is a little bit difficult to flush out without pulling it completely apart. And then when you get it completely pulled apart, it's hard to get it recalibrated to operate as it should. There's another one that's partially disassembled. You can see the little aluminium bit at the end, the calibration plug, and how that sits in there. You can see the little pintle valve sits in there, or shuttles through there. There it is there. And it's very difficult to see. There's a tiny little ball on the other side of that. Just got to break that filter out. You can see there's a little cap there. And underneath that cap there's a tiny little ball. When this magnet, you can see the magnet's actually in there, it's actually pulling that little check ball this way all the time. And that's what you're actually testing when you're testing it with vacuum. to see if that little check ball hasn't worn the little seat and losing pressure there. So if they're contaminated, there's not much you can do without replacing it. There's a little magnet in there. You can see that one's a little bit fuzzy, but not too bad. Anyway, I hope that's created a bit more confusion for you, knowing which solenoid you can flush and demagnetise to clean it, which one is no point in trying, which ones you test with pressure, which ones you test with vacuum, and again, some operate via amperage, not just on-off when they're applied with voltage. Hope that information helps. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Throw me a beer if any of this information helps. Thank you for watching.